Royal drama strikes again. Just when things seemed calm, a new secret has surfaced, and it's shaking up social media worldwide.
A shock wave has officially erupted, completely shattering Queen Camilla's pride. Leaked sources reveal that she fell into a state of utter collapse and panic when a secret iron box from the late Queen's era was unexpectedly unlocked. What lay inside was not jewelry, but a secret mandate sealed with red wax, a fatal blow that ruthlessly stripped away all the superficial glory she had been clinging to. This parchment roll contained a shocking truth. Princess Catherine was explicitly designated to hold the position of Queen Regent with full authority to steer the dynasty. Cornered jealousy turned Camilla into a base thief. Refusing to accept the truth, she secretly hired a locksmith to break into the safe late at night, stole the ultimate piece of evidence, and swapped it with a forged scroll in hopes of ousting her daughter-in-law. But Camilla did not know that every one of her sordid actions was being monitored by an underground intelligence system. How would this crime be exposed before the hundreds of eyes of the elite? What kind of micro-camera trap had William and Kate set to unmask the villain right in the middle of the banquet? And what devastating punishment would be dealt permanently, stripping the crown from the one who dared to steal the royal relic? Deep underground, where sunlight never reaches the treasure vault, is cold, silent, and reeks of the mustiness of time. This is no lavish gallery. It is a tomb of family secrets where items with the power to depose or establish a new monarch are kept. During a periodic classified inventory of physical royal assets, the elderly head butler, who has served 3 generations of monarchs, pulled an oak chest wrapped in tarnished copper from the darkest corner of the vault. Camilla stood there draped in an expensive mink coat, her gaze glancing indifferently over the dust-covered antiques. She had always loathed this basement, which reminded her of the antiquity of a bloodline she had used every trick to infiltrate. But when the oak chest was opened, with difficulty revealing a jet-black iron box intricately carved with lion patterns, her breath hitched. An ominous premonition shivered down her spine. The butler carefully pulled a rusted key from his waistcoat pocket and inserted it into the lock. A dry click echoed. The lid was lifted. Resting neatly and majestically on bright red velvet was a yellowed sheepskin parchment, carefully sealed with a block of dark red wax. On the surface of the wax was the late Queen's personal seal, a dragon holding a pearl, the seal used only for the family's most critical decisions. Without waiting for the butler to speak, Camilla reached out and snatched the scroll. The wax broke. She unfurled the parchment. Her eyes swept quickly over the lines written in special fade-proof ink. Each word, each stroke, was like a sharp knife digging deep into her chest. There were no words of honor, no praise for the woman standing before it. Instead, the final line curled, bolded, and underlined with a decisive stroke around a single name, Catherine. This secret mandate was not a certificate of merit. It was a transfer of absolute property and power. It explicitly designated the daughter-in-law to hold the position of Queen Regent the moment an incident occurred. This meant Catherine would be the only person to control the master keys to the gold vault, have the right to distribute or reclaim heirloom diamond sets, and most importantly, possess the royal seal to determine the fate of all massive inheritance assets. Camilla's name did not exist on the scroll at all, as if the late Queen had never considered her a part of this family. This scroll turned the multi-million-pound diamond crown on her head into a meaningless decoration. It stripped away her majestic mask, reducing her to the status of a dependent without any decision-making power. Camilla stood frozen in place. Her thin knuckles gripped the edge of the parchment until they turned white and wrinkled. Humiliation surged into a mad, burning jealousy in her chest. All her life, she had endured public scorn, swallowed her pride, and used every dirty trick to oust Diana and pave her way to the highest throne. Yet now a wretched old piece of paper dared to strip away all the assets and placed them in the hands of Kate, someone she had always considered weak. Cold sweat began to bead on Camilla's forehead, washing away her thick layer of makeup. She roughly rolled up the paper, stuffed it back into the iron box, and slammed the lid shut before the butler's bewildered eyes. Her gaze darkened veins of extreme hatred throbbing red. In the mind of this greedy woman, a cruel decision was made. This object must not exist. At any cost, even if she had to dirty her hands, she had to crush this piece of evidence before it could fall into the hands of her enemy. The large pendulum clock in the main hall struck 2 heavy bongs. 2 in the morning. The entire vast palace was submerged in a thick, cold darkness. Camilla stood before the mirror, shedding her gorgeous silk gown and bulky pearl necklace. She donned a pitch-black wool coat hood, pulled tight, slinking along the deserted marble corridor, like a ghost. Gone was the image of a majestic queen. She was now merely someone sliding into the mud of crime. Treading close behind her heels was a burly man in a hooded fleece jacket, his face obscured by a black mask. The smell of cheap cigarettes and sour sweat radiating from him contrasted sharply with the palace's luxury perfume. This was a notorious thug from the underworld, a bank safe-cracking specialist whom Camilla's most trusted lackeys had secretly smuggled in through the kitchen's back door. There was no nobility, no dignity in this act. Only the baseness of a thief craving to strip away what did not belong to her. They took the lightest steps possible down the narrow staircase leading to the treasure vault. The air here was thick with the smell of rusted metal and absolute deception. Camilla stopped panting from tension and agitation. She pointed her diamond-ringed finger toward the iron box left carelessly on a stone shelf in the corner. The locksmith nodded and stepped forward quickly. He pulled a pair of heavy black hardened steel bolt cutters from his canvas bag. He placed the sharp blades against the titanium lock that had rusted over the decades. He put his entire body weight into it, his tattooed, sinewy arms squeezing the handles. A sharp snap echoed in the silence. The sturdy steel bolt snapped, clattering onto the stone floor. Camilla lunged like a hungry predator. She roughly shoved the locksmith aside, ignoring any semblance of courtesy. Her hands, trembling with greed and intense excitement, flipped the box open. She snatched the real secret mandate with the red wax. Feeling the texture of the ancient sheepskin in her hands, the corners of Camilla's mouth curled into a vile, twisted smile. She quickly tucked the real evidence deep into her coat pocket, pressing it against her thigh to ensure it wouldn't fall out. Immediately, her other hand reached into her bosom and pulled out another scroll. This was an extremely sophisticated fake made in a rush by black market counterfeiters with high-tech equipment in less than 24 hours, according to her secret order. The fake scroll also had a red wax seal, also had flowing handwriting, but the content inside had been completely scraped and rewritten. The name Catherine had been erased, replaced with vague phrases granting decision-making power to the legitimate reigning wife. Camilla threw the fake scroll into the iron box, pressed the lid shut, and pretended everything was intact. The swap was complete. Before turning to leave, she reached into a small cloth bag hidden in her coat, pulled out a thick stack of cash large denomination bills with untraceable serial numbers. She shoved it into the locksmith's chest, signaling for him to disappear immediately the way he came. Both quickly retreated into the darkness, leaving behind a severed lock and a swapped truth. Camilla hurried up the stairs, her hand constantly stroking the bulge in her coat made by the real scroll, convinced she had successfully stripped her enemy of their most dangerous weapon. She held victory in her hands. The next morning, the artifact storage room was as cold as an ice cellar. Kate stood motionless before the stone shelf, her sharp, cold blue eyes scanning every millimeter of the surrounding space. She did not need the butler to read a long report. With just a glance, she recognized the anomaly. Kate's gloved hand reached out, and gently lifted the iron box to eye level. The locking bolt had been cleanly severed not by natural wear, but by immense physical force. Looking closer, she spotted a brand new sharp metallic scratch shining under the dim ceiling light. It was stark and glaring against the surface of the titanium that had been tarnished for decades. William stood with his arms crossed behind her, his jaw-clenched veins clearly visible on his neck. He stepped forward to touch the box, but Kate raised her hand to stop him. She opened the lid herself, using gold-plated tweezers to carefully lift the parchment scroll. The moment it was lifted, the smell of cheap industrial chemicals, the smell of black market glue, hit her nose completely, disrupting the natural scent of sandalwood and old paper of the vault. That evening, the thick steel door of the soundproof safe room, William's private property, slammed shut. The room transformed into a miniature intelligence center. The darkness was torn apart by the harsh purple light of a specialized ultraviolet UV flashlight. Kate laid the scroll that Camilla had left behind flat on the tempered glass table. Under the harsh UV light, the naked truth was undeniably exposed. Strange smeared fingerprints were clearly imprinted on the edge of the paper traces of carelessness and haste. The dark red wax appeared perfect to the naked eye, but under the UV light, it was completely empty, lacking the ultrafine golden threads that the late Queen had secretly mixed in as a traditional anti-counterfeiting technique. This scroll was a low-quality fake, and the thief was still brazenly lurking above them, eating dinner at the same table. William clenched his fists and slammed them onto the glass table, making it shake. A fire of extreme indignation ignited in his eyes. He wanted to rush to Camilla's room, grab her by the collar, and throw her out the door. But Kate just remained silent. The corners of her mouth lifted in a cold, calculating smile. She did not shout, did not question, and did not try to expose her immediately. In this life or death battle, the hot-headed one is the one guaranteed to lose. Kate decided to act like a patient hunter. Within hours, William's most trusted underground intelligence team, those who carried no royal insignia, loyal only to the truth, was deployed in absolute secrecy. Under Kate's direction, a silent infiltration took place. Micro cameras the size of pinheads were secretly embedded deep into the carvings on portrait frames, hidden subtly behind heavy red velvet curtains, and tucked deep under rare orchid pots in Camilla's private study. A state-of-the-art, highly sensitive recording device was firmly attached with invisible adhesive right under the felt lining of the silver coaster Camilla used every day. The invisible trap had been set just waiting for the arrogant, complacent prey to walk in and commit suicide. Throughout the following weeks, a brutal Cold War, devoid of gunfire, but full of insults, took place fiercely at the banquet tables and in the palace drawing rooms. Camilla lived in the delusional madness of someone who held total victory. At a royal tea party, gathering all the elites and old nobility, she deliberately wore the largest teardrop diamond necklace, a treasure that should have been reserved only for the true Queen Regent. Camilla constantly glared, casting contemptuous looks at Kate. She rudely signaled the servants to clear Kate's plate immediately before she could touch her fork, an act of public humiliation. Camilla deliberately lounged about, constantly whispering and laughing with the sycophantic marchionesses to create a barrier to isolate her daughter-in-law. Despite the relentless attacks, Kate just sat with her back straight, calmly sipping her Earl Grey tea, her deep blue eyes not wavering even for a blink. She was enduring not out of weakness, but because she was counting down her enemy's time. But Camilla's ultimate hubris did not stop in the living room. She carried that arrogance into her private space as well. That night, deep inside the secret monitoring room, Kate and William sat motionless before a row of computer screens. Their eyes were glued to the footage streamed live from Camilla's study. The image was incredibly sharp, displayed via the micro camera. Camilla was sitting cross-legged in an expensive velvet-upholstered armchair, holding a glass of dark red wine. Opposite her was a trusted secretarial lackey. Camilla set her wine glass down on the table, the base hitting the micro-listening device hidden underneath. She stood up, walked straight to the giant oil painting on the wall, and forcefully shoved it aside to reveal a wall-mounted personal safe. She dialed the code and pulled out the real red wax secret mandate she had stolen from the basement. The listening device captured every single sound. Camilla's voice rang out triumphantly, shrill and venomous, directly into William and Kate's ears. "They think they can flaunt titles in front of me. How ridiculous! The original is safe in my vault. That little brat Kate is clinging to in the basement is just a pile of cheap, worthless paper knocked together by the black market. Wait until the banquet at the end of the month. I will bring that box out publicly in front of all the nobles. I will expose that scrap of paper, force them to voluntarily hand over all the treasury keys. I will crush her pride with my own hands, strip her of everything." On the screen, Camilla stroked the edge of the real parchment, threw her head back, and let out a long, loud laugh, utterly satisfied with her crime. On the other end of the line, William ground his teeth, his fingers pressing hard on the keyboard to save the high-resolution video and the crystal-clear audio file. Kate leaned back in her chair, fingers interlaced on her lap. A dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. Filthy greed and unbridled arrogance had blinded her enemy completely, causing her to expose her entire crime herself. The steel noose had tightened around Camilla's neck. Now, they only had to stand in the middle of the banquet and pull the rope, letting the villain experience the depths of humiliation. The climax of the punishment was ready. The gala honoring the royal bloodline took place in the Central Grand Hall, the most luxurious and splendid part of the palace. Hundreds of guests, old nobility holders of massive treasures, and the most powerful elites had gathered. Light from 3 giant crystal chandeliers cast a blinding brilliance onto the snow-white marble floor. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of expensive perfume, the clinking of crystal glasses, and murmurs of flattery. But hidden beneath that glamorous facade was a ticking time bomb that had been activated, just waiting for the moment to detonate. Camilla appeared at the top of the main staircase like a dictator at the peak of glory. She wore a crimson silk gown encrusted with thousands of crystals, and on her head sat the heavy diamond and emerald crown, the ultimate piece of jewelry that should only have been given to the holder of the Queen Regent's power. Around her neck, she wore the teardrop pearl necklace she had blatantly seized from the vault. Camilla held her head high, walking with pride down the steps. Her gaze swept over the crowd, sharp and arrogant, as if to tell everyone here that absolute power now belonged to her forever. In the corner of the room, Kate stood silently. She wore a simple jet-black velvet gown that exuded an imposing majesty. No massive crown, no showy pearl strings. Her only jewelry was the sparkling deep blue sapphire ring on her finger. William stood beside her, his back-straight eyes locked on the target strutting her stuff in the middle of the hall. None of the powerful crowd knew that the darkness was preparing to swallow the greediest of them all. At exactly 8 o'clock, Camilla stepped onto the highest podium in the middle of the hall, raising her hand to signal for silence. The symphonic music died down. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the woman standing under the blinding chandelier light. She loudly ordered 2 servants to bring the black iron box with lion carvings and place it on the red velvet-covered table. Camilla tipped her chin, her gaze challenging, and directed straight at Kate, her crimson-painted lips curling into a triumphant smile. She flipped the lid of the box, reached inside, and pulled out the forged scroll that she had swapped with her own hands in the dead of night. Camilla raised the scroll high into the air, letting the fake red wax seal hit the eyes of the entire nobility. Tonight, in front of all the guardians of the family bloodline. Camilla's voice echoed throughout the hall, shrill and ambitious. I will announce the final relic sealed in this iron box. This scroll is the absolute proof of the transfer of assets designating the only person with the right to control all the gold vault keys and heirloom diamond collections. And the name being called is none other than... She took a deep breath, preparing to spit the final insult in Kate's face. But that name would never be spoken. Kate just slightly raised her finger, a small gesture, but one that carried destructive power. The entire crystal chandelier system in the Grand Hall went pitch black. Gasps of astonishment and the sound of footsteps retreating in panic echoed in the darkness. Before anyone could react, a powerful beam of white light from an industrial projector hidden in the ceiling pierced the night, drenching the giant stone wall right behind Camilla's back. A video sharp to every angle appeared magnified dozens of times. It was an image of Camilla hooded in a black coat, sneaking into the treasure vault. Next was the scene of the locksmith using bolt cutters to forcefully break the titanium lock. And the clearest, most cruel image, Camilla's face twisted with bottomless greed as she stuffed the real secret mandate into her coat pocket and quickly threw the fake scroll into the iron box. The elite crowd held their breath. The atmosphere thickened with shock. No one could believe their eyes. But the final blow was the audio file. The hall's high-powered surround sound system played the audio extremely clear, without a hint of background noise. Camilla's own shrill, malicious voice from the study rang out clearly, striking the eardrums of hundreds of powerful people. The original is safe in my vault. That little brat Kate is clinging to in the basement is just a pile of cheap, worthless paper. I will expose that scrap of paper, force them to voluntarily hand over all the treasury keys. I will crush her pride with my own hands. The footage ended. The hall lights suddenly turned back on, blindingly bright. A terrifying silence gripped the space. All the sycophantic, fawning gazes now turned into disgust and extreme contempt. Camilla stood frozen on the podium, her carefully made-up face now pale as a corpse drained of blood. The forged parchment in her hand suddenly became evidence of the most dirty base crime. She trembled and took a step back, her hands clutching the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. Her eyes darted wildly, hopelessly, trying to find a lifeline. "No! This is slander!" Camilla screamed in a desperate voice, pointing straight at Kate. "They staged this footage! The real one! The real one is in my safe! They are the real fraudsters!" Kate stepped forward. Her demeanor was majestic, her face calm without a trace of emotion. She did not rush to reply, nor did she shout in anger. She let the panic consume the villain. From behind the scenes, 3 elderly men in black suits stepped out cautiously. They were not police, nor were they lawyers. They were experts in evaluating ancient artifacts and master mechanics of royal jewelry people who had never bowed to any superficial power. One of them carried an aluminum alloy suitcase. The group of experts walked straight to the red velvet table, completely ignoring Camilla's presence. The lead expert, wearing white gloves, pulled a glass bottle containing a special light blue chemical solution and a small silver chisel from the suitcase. "The thing you are hiding in your personal safe, madam!" The expert's cold, steady voice rang out in the hall. "Is an extremely sophisticated decoy." Camilla opened her eyes wide, her pupils constricting in horror. "A decoy!" she hissed. "Correct," the expert continued. "The late queen and her greatest advisors anticipated the greed of outsiders. They knew there would be someone who would use every trick to break into this box. So the scroll hidden on the surface, no matter how sophisticated, was just a trap for thieves." As he spoke, the expert dripped a few drops of the blue solution onto the bottom of the black iron box. A small sizzling sound was heard. The invisible glue covering the double bottom for decades began to melt. Using the silver chisel, he gently pried up the iron bottom. A secret space hidden deep beneath the box's base was officially revealed. From that secret compartment, The expert carefully took out a third sheepskin scroll. This scroll was wrapped in a layer of yellow silk, sealed with a dark red wax block that was intact, vibrant, and without a single scratch from tampering. Under the chandelier light, the ultra-fine golden threads mixed inside the wax block flashed with absolute authoritative light. This was the ultimate evidence. This was the power that had never left this box. Kate stepped forward, slowly taking the original secret mandate from the expert. She held it up. Without a word of explanation, needed the original red wax seal radiated final judgment. The cruel plot twist dealt a fatal blow to Camilla's mind. What she had risked her life to cut locks for Steelhide in a safe and smugly stroke every night was actually just an empty lure. She was not just a thief, but a foolish puppet who had walked into a trap set decades ago. Greed had exposed her cowardice to the entire elite. What you held was never power. Kate's voice rang out cold, as bone-shattering all the enemy's final illusions. It was just the empty greed of a thief, and a thief is never allowed to wear a crown. The space collapsed. Camilla's noble mask shattered. She staggered back, then crazily lunged toward Kate, intending to snatch the real scroll. But William stepped forward to block her path. With a cold snap of his fingers, he completely extinguished all avenues of retreat for the villain. There was no leniency, no negotiation, and no press release to cover it up. From the four corners of the hall, the Royal Shadow Guard marched in. The two in the lead ruthlessly hauled Camilla up off the ground. She struggled, screaming madly, "Let go of me! I am the queen! You have no right!" But before the hundreds of contemptuous eyes of the elite, a guard forcibly ripped the diamond and emerald crown off the top of her head. The crown clattered onto the stone floor. Next, the priceless teardrop pearl necklace around her neck was snapped off. The pearls scattered, rolling under the heels of the guests. All symbols of nobility were stripped away mercilessly, returning her to the exact form of a penniless thief. "Drag her out the back door," William ordered, his voice sharp as a knife. The crowd parted to the sides. The guards dragged the thrashing woman through the dark corridor reserved for the servants. The back door swung open. Camilla was roughly thrown into a pitch-black van with no glass windows. The iron lock slammed shut with a dry sound, cutting off all hope. The vehicle sped into the night, carrying the sinner to her sentence of permanent exile at a rotting stone castle on the most remote edge of Scotland. Inside the brilliant hall, everything returned to silence. Kate stood there calmly, the deep blue sapphire ring on her finger shining brightly alongside the original secret mandate. The battle ended with a devastating and deeply satisfying punishment. The thief had lost everything. True power had returned to the hands of the rightful ruler. Had the flame of Camilla's ambition truly been extinguished, would someone who had spent half a lifetime sneaking, fighting, and stopping at nothing obediently accept rotting away in the cold, desolate Highlands? Or would the darkness of that stone prison in Scotland be a nursery for an even more base and crazed plan of revenge? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.